Power in Language, Speaking Truth to Teachers, a presentation by Elizabeth Johnson. It is my belief that language comes from the truth or beliefs that we, or society in general, holds about a certain idea. I believe that the language that we create that revolves around a certain idea shows whoever is involved in that, in this example, teachers, what the general beliefs or truth is that is seen about them. In this presentation, I'd like you to consider what is the language that we, society in general, teachers as well, have been using around the idea of teaching, and what are the impacts of that language on teachers themselves and the way that they view themselves in a position of power or in a position of powerlessness. One of my favorite songs by Pink Floyd is titled Another Brick in the Wall, and the lyrics are, "We don't need no education. We don't need no mind control." And this song was certainly a reflection of the time in which teachers were very rigid, very strict, and sometimes very harmful to the students that they were constantly deriding. However, as it's become a huge pop hit, you can see that over a certain period of time, it has become more ingrained in society's belief that teachers shouldn't be involved in mind control. They shouldn't be, acting, harshly towards students in their classroom. It's kind of changed the mentality towards teachers and in education as well. And it also has created this stereotype of these evil teachers that exist that are just there to be tyrannical and mean and don't have a higher purpose or a higher value in themselves intrinsically. I came across some great memes that I'd like to share with you. One of them down here, the "You shall not pass" meme, shows one of these very stereotypical images of an older, probably very rigid, mean, yelling teacher who doesn't care about her students. Some other things that I think are important as far as language goes is this meme up at the top where you have parents yelling at children saying these grades are terrible in 1960, and now it's the parents yelling at the teacher, telling the teacher these grades are terrible. So the dynamic has changed. Something interesting to consider, whether the cartoon reflects what's already going on or the society reflects what people are believe is happening. The other one here in the middle is the staff meeting is canceled. And as you can tell, the baby is very excited that the staff meeting is canceled, because why would there be a need for having a meeting of staff to get together and discuss important issues? And I like up here at the very top, that moment when you ask yourself why you became a teacher. There is a lot of kind of questioning oneself in public school education as to, why am I putting myself through this? Why am I in this abusive relationship with my job? And I think that some of that language goes into show that reflects some of teachers' attitudes towards themselves, teachers' attitudes towards their colleagues in the administration, students' attitudes or society's attitudes towards teachers. And then the relationship even of what has changed, the dynamic is what has changed between society and teachers in the last, maybe you might want to say 50 years. In 2017, I came across a blog that had a lot of great graphs. Some of the quotes from them as well, if you want to go to the website, it's at the bottom, are, "Teachers are really stressed out," and "Teachers are quitting because they're dissatisfied," and "Teachers' union participation is down." And the last one says 42% of teachers say they have little to no influence on the professional development available to them. Now, the graphs are very interesting, and they do come with some polls that are included that show how teachers are showing how they're so stressed out. Are they stressed out all the time? Are they only stressed out some of the time? What is their source of dissatisfaction? And there's graphs that show all of that. And if teacher union participation is down, why? What does that mean as far as how teachers view themselves, how they view working with other teachers or working in a union to fix a system or to fight for their teacher rights? And then again, 42% of teachers say they have little to no influence on their own professional development, which means they can't even control what it is they need in order to improve their craft. And I think that speaks very much to why or how they feel that nobody is actually listening to them. They have to go to those staff meetings not because it's going to be helpful, but because somebody else chose that they had to go and sit through them. One of my favorite quotes from staff meetings has been, "I'm going to get y'all out of here real quick." And that was always something that was said by the cool, quote unquote, administrator who knew that we didn't have time to waste and we didn't want to be there in the first place. And that phrase was kind of the impetus for me to start on this presentation. And it meant to me that no administrators and teachers alike were not willing or wanting to engage in real talk about their jobs, about things that they could change. Teachers were essentially not being listened to because the administrators didn't plan it in advance. They also have too much going on. And because they would pay lip service to the idea like, well, teachers have to go do grading and they have stuff to do, but there was never any kind of way to build trust between administrators as far as having teachers feeling like they were listening to them. I came across a lot of memes and images, of course, in my presentation, and I really like this one. Being a teacher is easy. It's like riding a bike, except the bike is on fire. You're on fire. Everything is on fire. And again, if language is a source of showing what the truth is, what the belief is in society, how teachers view themselves and how people view teaching, I would think that you would agree with me that this meme, this cup, is this little quote has been written by a teacher who feels that everything is on fire. There's literally no way out. There is nothing that I can do to change the situation. I'm on fire. Everything's on fire. The bike is on fire. Everything is failing, and there's nothing I can do to make any change. In some of the ways also that not only teachers talk about themselves, but other people talk about teachers, I came across an article in the Huffington Post about why bad teachers are good. And this article does say that bad teachers are good because they teach children lessons about how to deal in social relationships, which I would agree with. However, if you just look at the language surrounding this issue, unlike the great teachers who share enthusiasm, compassion, and dedication, every bad teacher is bad in his own way. And then the author goes on to put that there are 4 main types. I guess this assumes, by starting off, that even those bad teachers somehow don't share enthusiasm, compassion, or dedication, or that they don't have a right to feel like everything is on fire, the bike is on fire, the system is collapsing, and nothing really works. Can you have that dichotomy of being both enthusiastic and compassionate and dedicated to your job, and at the same time feeling like, oh my God, nothing I'm doing is working and nothing is changing? Here are the 4 types that she identified. The dummy, a really very positive way to describe a teacher. An ideologue, somebody who is so ingrained in one belief that they can't see anything else. The apathetic and uninterested teacher, who basically hates their job. And then the petty dictator, which kind of goes back to the Pink Floyd version of that stereotypical teacher of, we don't need no mind control, and the person who simply wants to harass students and make everything run according to a system, and everything has to be on time and without any room for change or for reality or for individuals. Another thing that I came across in looking at some forms of proof in language were titles of TED Talks by teachers. And again, this is teachers who are leading TED Talks, and they are the ones choosing their own titles. A couple of them: No More Bad Coffee, Professional Development That Honors Teachers. The Toxic Culture of Education. Shut up and let me teach. I love teaching so much, I quit. Unleashing Greatness in Teachers. Why teachers teach, but kids don't learn. And what kids wish their teachers knew. All of these have a really negative connotation. And don't get me wrong, there are certainly lots of happy-go-lucky, wonderful things about how to be a great teacher and how to succeed and how to do all these things. But I feel like these ones are really real. And if you watch any of these TED Talks, you'll see that in them, the teachers are up there talking about real things happening in the world of education all the time. Professional development that is a complete waste of time. Having people walk in on you and assess you and without being told that they're going to show up at any place in any one time. Being a teacher that's been teaching for a long time and knowing what should be done, and then having somebody else who comes in and tells you what to do anyway. I mean, they talk about teacher attrition. They talk about the money, the capital that's being wasted on having teachers who are quitting within 5 years in every state, basically around the United States. So I felt like the language that is in these as well, the negativity towards so many parts of what being a teacher is, or what's going on in the teacher world, also showed how teachers feel about their own job, their own profession. They feel like they're not validated. They feel like they are not being given enough power over what they actually do on a day-to-day basis. Shut up and let me teach. Just shut up. Leave me alone. So I think it really shows so many things that are going on internally from teachers' reactions to how society or how administration or government is treating them as well. On their own profession, there's a great video that I came across that I think is also from teachers who are in the Houston area, called Professional Development. And I'm going to go ahead and let it play in the background as I talk about it because the sound's not working. But in this, it is back to school in August, and teachers are so happy that they've been living their summer off, and they're just now realizing that it's time to go back to their work. It's back, is what he says. Summer's almost over, and they're just miserable at the idea that they would have to go back to a classroom where they have students like this one eating Takis and sucking on their fingers. And it's like a nightmare. So what's happening in this entire sequence is just that the teachers are dreading the return of their time back in the classroom. And it shows from, students, that being a thing, to having, school supplies all over the place, to then in this last clip, there's going to be, an administrator who just shows up randomly at their door trying to give an assessment in a classroom. So he says, ready for your unannounced walkthrough. And it just becomes a nightmare where the teachers are just trying to escape what the reality of the day-to-day life of actually being a teacher in a public school is like. And I think that I actually really appreciate the creators of this video, because they've taken how teachers feel about their profession and they have passive aggressively put it into YouTube to make other teachers laugh. Just like we have a lot of memes by teachers for teachers, to make them laugh about the nightmare of what it's like to be going through the school year. Sometimes it truly feels like a nightmare. So the language that's involved here, the showing of how they actually view themselves as powerless in what they're going through on a yearly basis, of how much control they have over their lives, over their students, over the administration, kind of shows you a lot about how they view themselves and how they view their own power. Okay, my final thoughts on this entire thing are that there's a page on page 93 of Pennycook. There's a quote that says, if we see small-scale action, the micropolitics of the classroom, as reflecting large-scale social structure, we can start to see how social relations are reproduced in daily classroom interactions. I feel like what this becomes is a way that teachers deal with derision that comes in from their students, and that comes in from society and from parents. They are then frustrated with the students themselves, who don't know where it comes from, and they are then very much caught in their own lack of power, by how society and how administration and how students treat them. And so they not only basically internalize that what's coming on from external forces, but then they internalize it as, I am powerless. I have no way to control my students. I have no way to control society's point of view of me. I have no way to control my administration and change things. And that becomes kind of a perpetual cycle. I also think that there's a lot to say about abusive relationships, and the fact that it feels very much at times that you're staying in